Pokemon Detective Pikachu, or Detective Pikachu as a lot of people are calling it, is I guess you could call it an anime. You could also call it a video game movie depending on your perspective. It's a Pokemon movie. It's a live action Pokemon movie. It's a Pokemon movie that I saw over the weekend and I didn't have a chance to review it because, man, they've been working me like a dog at that job. I'm going to assume that even if you aren't like a diehard fan of Pokemon, you at least know what Pokemon is, you know what they are. This movie stars Justin Smith and Ryan Reynolds, and it takes place in a city where there's this kid played by Justin Smith who lives kind of a boring life. He doesn't really want anything to do with Pokemon because of some stuff that happened in his past. Lo and behold, one day his father ends up missing. He has to try to figure out what happened to his father, and when he tries to figure out what happened to his father, he runs into his father's Pokemon partner. It's a Pikachu, although it's a Detective Pikachu because it was his father's partner and his father was a cop. And so that's where the Detective Pikachu thing comes from. Weird thing is, though, that he can actually conversate with this Pikachu. Like, he can actually talk to this Pikachu somehow. So they have to put their heads together and try to figure out what happened to his father and unravel some big conspiracy involving Pokemon in this movie. I love Pokemon. I love Pokemon. I have loved Pokemon my entire life. I love it. I love it, love it, and I just need to let that be known right out the gate. I've been obsessed with Pokemon since I was a kid. I watched the TV show. I loved the different types of Pokemon that you could get. I played the games. I collected the cards. I traded the cards. I battled the cards. I'm actually showing really good restraint right now. The temptation to hold back and just not be like, I want to be the very best, like no one ever was. Consider it a mild success that I held off on singing that song, and I'm going to continue to hold off singing that song throughout this review, so you gotta give me points for that. In any case, I was really excited to see this movie because, again, I'm a huge Pokemon fan, and a live-action Pokemon movie, I mean, that just has huge franchise potential. I will say that this movie is definitely an entertaining time at the movies, both for Pokemon fans and for casual fans who just want a good time at the movies. For starters, I do love the world building that they do in this movie. They do a decent enough job at fleshing out the world of Pokemon, immersing you in that world, teasing you with all the great things about Pokemon, and showing you exactly why people love them so much, why people like me have such an emotional attachment to them. This guy, for instance, this is my Charmander. Like, it's a tiny little, you can't see, it's here, I'll show it. I got this Charmander a couple of days ago. I have been obsessed with it, and it hasn't left my side in the last few days because it's mine. It's my Charmander. Charizard is my favorite Pokemon, so it's Charmander. I'm keeping him with me, and no one can touch it. A lot of Charmanders in this movie. You see a lot of Squirtles. You see a lot of different Pokemon from a lot of different generations. As a big Pokemon fan, it was just such a joy, a thrill to see all these Pokemon. The Pokemon definitely are the stars of the entire movie. The most fascinating thing about this world, their powers, their abilities, the way they interact with things. Human beings use these Pokemon in their everyday life. I mean, everything that I've always wanted to see from the games or the TV show translated onto the big screen, it happened for me. And as a big Pokemon fan, that made me really happy. I gotta say, the biggest star of the movie, though, like excluding all the Pokemon shit, has gotta be Ryan Reynolds as Pikachu. Although Ryan Reynolds in this movie is pretty much just Ryan Reynolds in any role. Let's be honest, at this point, Ryan Reynolds himself is his own character. Like, he's basically Deadpool in this movie, except he doesn't cuss as much, there's not as much nudity, there's not as much fourth wall breaking, although there's enough of it to make you think that he actually is Deadpool in a Pikachu body. The point is, I saw Ryan Reynolds in the trailer for Pokemon Detective Pikachu, and I was just kind of like, that looks like it's not going to work. I don't know if I'm buying that. And it turns out, he was the best thing about the movie. Ryan Reynolds was the best character in the movie. He had the funniest lines. He had the most things to do, narratively speaking. There are other Pokemon that have their brief moments. There's a great moment with Charizard in this movie that, as a longtime fan, just made me... That was just a tad bit feminine. Let me dial that back a little bit. I didn't make a noise like that. It was just more like... Easy enough to follow. It's easy enough to feel somewhat invested in. The human characters, most of them aren't that annoying. Say the visual effects and the action sequences are pretty good. There's actually a really good musical score in this movie as well, and it made me want to see more. And that's really all I was asking for in this movie, just an entertaining time that made me want to see more. Fortunately, when you look back at this movie, you can't help but notice that the human part of the Pokemon movie is hands down the worst part of the movie. Like I said, not all of the human characters are annoying, but a lot of them still feel useless. Some of them feel like, okay, you're just in this movie because this character needs this. Like, you're just here to service that character, and I don't care about you. It was really hard to care about a lot of the human characters in this movie, including, like, the main character played by Justin Smith. I attribute most of that to his performance because the acting in the movie was very up and down. However, when it comes to the characterization of the other characters in the movie, it's not a performance thing, it's just a writing thing. They're just not that interesting. The villain plot in this movie, I will say, was kind of, it's not that good. Definitely got amazing Spider-Man vibes from one element of this villain plan in this movie. I can't spoil what it is, but if you see the Amazing Spider-Man, you're just gonna be like, holy shit, this is This is the Amazing Spider-Man, except with Pokemon. Villains in the movie overall were kind of disappointing. They felt like they were just there to be villains for the movie, and they didn't actually serve a purpose, really. Detective Pikachu was a really good time at the movies. I'm going to leave this one in the Silver Age for Man of Steel. Pokemon, Detective Pikachu, what did you think about it? Comment below, let me know. Like and subscribe to the Superfan Show, and as always, if you like what you see, tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Pika Pika!